Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is a reaction video to a recent Tucker Carlson interview where he's talking about UFOs, and he mentions something mind-blowing, a concept that a conclusion that I have arrived at for many years now, and I was blown away that he said virtually the identical thing. So I had to make a reaction video. I couldn't help myself.
What I find so striking about the UFOs, this is the main takeaway I have, is like there's this debate like, is this stuff, these phenomena, which are clearly, obviously real, I mean, there's no debate about that. There's a lot of shit that people can't explain in the sky and underwater. We know that. Fact. Is this, so the debate is this government technology, is it from outer space, or is it some spiritual realm here? I've already told you my view of it. But what I find so
It's a combination of the three. It's a bit of all of those three. Okay, but mostly 2 and 3. I mean, there's a smaller percentage of it is actually crafted and made, you know, secret technology from governments, whatever, Russia, China, America. Okay. But it's mostly the latter because, I mean, I can get into gigantic... I mean, I can talk about it forever. I can have an entire channel dedicated just on the fact that... I mean, consider this. The other day I was reading, I didn't know, I don't know where, I don't remember where I saw it, Twitter, somewhere. There are several billion, like about 2 billion planets in our Milky Way galaxy. Well, it may have been more. And there's the same amount of galaxies actually, so it's like, it might be more, but let's say it's 2 billion, lowest estimate, most conservative estimate. So that would be 2 billion squared, which is to say 2 billion times 2 billion. So however many zeros are at the end of billion, add them all over again, so double them. So how many zeros are at the end of a billion? 9. Okay, so 2 times 2 is 4, so that would be 4 with 18 zeros. So gorillion, whatever that, I don't know if that is, if there's even a technical name for that term, for that number, right? I'm sure there would be. So yeah, so he's on the right track there. It's amazing to me that this guy actually, you know, very recently has become super red-pilled on the UPA. Why do they call it UPA? So I was going to say the G word, but we're allowed to say on Twitter now. But it's so just, I don't know. I like UFOs. So anyway, let's continue. Let the man speak. This entire thing is not going to be just me commenting. We've got to hear the man as well.
interesting. We know the government's lied about it. They're lying about it now. That's a fact. There's no way around it. They've absolutely lied about it in very elaborate ways. I am really struck. Here's my current thinking on it. The main effort that the U.S. government has put into its disinformation, its lying on this topic, has been not to mislead you on the technology. Like, they're not telling me they don't have anti-gravity technology. It sounds, from watching your podcast, that they do, which I believe. No problem believing that. Their main interest is in convincing you that the supernatural is not real.
Bingo.
That's
see, that part is what made, that's why I started the reaction about a minute before that, because I wanted to lead into that. That blew me away, and I don't know, I don't think there'll be many, but maybe if there's some of you that might think, that might be a bit cynical and think, wait a minute, Constantine, you're just doing this because it has to do with your book. So what happened is it's a massive synchronicity. I was blown away. I saw this, I've got the craziest sleeping hours, you know, it's classic struggling artist sleeping schedule, okay? So I'm not really working now. I'm kind of like semi-retired, so like my sleeping schedule, sometimes I'm sleeping in the day, sometimes I'm sleeping normal hours, you know, sleep before midnight, get up very early, but past few days it's been one of my crazy schedules where I stay up all night with coffees and then sleep a lot the next day. So it's one of these. So I was up last night on Twitter, and this thing came across my feed, and because it was about him talking about UFOs, I was like, okay, let's see. And at this point, okay, I was doing something, I was eating at the same time, so it was like, it wasn't like I was wasting time. So as I was eating, it was playing. I'm like, okay, I was nodding. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. When he got to this point, however, I was absolutely stunned. I was stunned because you're seeing by my reaction now how authentic it is. It's like, I had the exact same thought for many years, plus I articulated that idea of mine in my fictional book. I mean, it's a fantasy book, but think, I don't know, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, all that kind of stuff, Dune, all those good classic things, Wheel of Time, whatever you can jam in there, all those classics that follow the hero's journey motif, that type of thing. Classic male hero, blah blah blah. Epic stuff, complex, but at the same time, with massive injection of like Da Vinci Code type of stuff as well, like conspiracy done like conspiracy thriller, but done in an exciting way, not like a not in a conspiracy theory nerd type of fashion. It's gonna be like, it's gonna draw you in. You'll want, like, I'm doling it out like little breadcrumbs, bit by bit, each chapter, and then you're like, oh, I want to know more. I want to keep knowing more. You keep, it's a page turner. I've set it up that way. And there's a particular scene when he said this, I immediately thought, what the F? That's exactly what I say in the book. And it was so massively synchronistic because, I mean, I haven't got a lot of subscribers on this channel now. I mean, what, about 10 or 12 or something, somewhere around there. So the few subscribers that might see this video as soon as I put it out will think, he hasn't been around for a while. Yes, sorry, I was away for about 3 months because I got sick. Not sick, I figured out that I had hernia. I was diagnosed with hernia and I had to have an operation. And a couple of other things happened, and I was working 25 hours a day, eight days a week to finally complete the novel, which has been a massive project, almost 20 years, believe it or not, because it's an entire saga. It's 9 books in total, but I finished the first one, finally got it perfect to my liking. When he said that, immediately, so the synchronicity is that now that this is going to be the first video in which I'm going to be promoting the book. I'm going to have like a little, in the middle of every video, from now on, approximately in the middle of every video, in both of my channels, in my older channel as well, that I've had, started 14 years ago. I'll have like, like a, what is it, a 30-minute, or 30-second or 1-minute promo spot, professionally made promo spot. So, and I'm like, Jesus, the first video that I'm going to end up doing after the book is finally ready and I'm going to promote it, it's going to be about the book, ironically. So there's a massive synchronicity to me, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is not an accident, this is crazy. So please, people, don't think, I know that most of you won't take it that way, but because you can see my genuine reaction here as to the way I reacted when I saw him say this last night. But just in case you might think, oh, he's just doing it for blah blah blah. No. I would have many opportunities from now on to be reading various passages from the book and stuff. I mean, half of the bloody book is footnotes. It's unbelievable. The footnotes are like 60,000+ words in length. I've got about 200+ footnotes on things like problem, reaction, solution, and false flag attack, like all these things. So anyway, but that particular passage, and I've got the book open now, So after I do the reaction, I'm gonna put up the Word doc on the screen and read from it. It's about a couple of paragraphs, and it's pretty much exactly what he's saying, what he's going to say in a second, which is that whoever these people are that are behind this, like secrecy, what they're doing is they seem to be hell-bent on keeping the supernatural / the occult secret from the masses. He doesn't understand why, but people like me and others do, because we understand the occult, because we've been deprogrammed from organized religion early 20s. So anyway, so you'll see when I read the passage from the book, but it fits in perfectly with what he's saying. I was blown away. All right.
And if you watch, and there are people in the media who specialize in spreading these lies on behalf of the government. I'm not going to name anybody, but like some of them work at the New York Times. Once you
it's so hilarious. I like, he's so cheeky. He's like, well, I don't want to say who it is, but it's someone at the New York Times. So I don't know who he means, but he's obviously trying to give hints for people to figure out who it is. So it's I'm just amazed with this guy that he just understands this thing.
realize what the point of the exercise is, it's crazy. And I hope you'll assess all the fact checking and the skepticism.
Sorry, what I was going to say just 10 seconds ago was that it's so obvious, like he said half a minute ago. It's so obvious that they're deliberately, like they're using the mass media to twist this thing, to hide it from us, or to make you feel like you're crazy, conspiracist, all that stuff. He continues, he says more about this.
On UAPs through this lens, the main thing they want you to believe is the supernatural is not real.
There you go. The main thing they want you to believe is that the supernatural is not real. When I read the passage, those couple of paragraphs in the book, it's like at the end of chapter 2. Yeah, I explain it, I write it in a different way, because it's supposed to be like a fantasy thing, I present it as a fantasy book, but like I'm just dropping from start to finish every single page. It's just like red pill after red pill, just truth bombs. A lot of people are going to be like, are you sure this is fantasy? This is fiction? But, presenting a lot of these truths, but I'm presenting them through a fictional format, so I can, because it would be a much easier way to red pill the masses, to red pill many more people. Through fiction, it's just easier to get a wider audience, that's all. But presenting it in a fantasy-esque way, more flowery language and so on, but it's basically the same concept, right? And I can't stop talking about it. That's why I keep pausing. Like I could just clip this little bit, like this 10 seconds or whatever, where he first says that, and just keep watching it over and over for an hour. I can't believe that he arrived to that conclusion. And I always, I'm a Christian myself on paper, technically. I'm an author bro, I guess. So yay, I'm actually, at least I was brought up in the best kind of the best version of Christianity, Orthodox Christianity, Greek Orthodox. So I've always been I look down on people that are full-on Christians, like Tucker, who take it. I believe he takes it seriously to the point where he thinks the whole Adam and Eve thing is actually a literal story, and that God just created us like that. It just went like that, and humans just appeared. When the Christians that are completely literal to that extent, I'm kind of like, I don't know. Even if the person is smart on paper, like on other levels, like they just have a fairly high IQ and they're educated or whatever, I'll still be like, oh, come on, yeah. But if you believe that stuff, if you take that stuff literally, I mean, come on. I'm like, no. So I was doubly amazed that this guy, and he's like, what, early 50s, mid 50s, something like that. He looks good for that age, by the way. I'm like, how did this happen? This is an amazing, case study of red pilling. Okay.
Well, then you have to ask yourself, like, why?
It's interesting.
It is so interesting. Why is that important to you? Why do you care if I think the supernatural is real? Like, why is that? First of all, why is it? How dare you, as my government, try to get involved in my spiritual beliefs? That's totally not your area. So get the.
So he's trying to say now, why is it that it could have been anything, like if it was for any other weird belief or, fringe belief or or currently outside of the Overton window belief, they would just dismiss it and whatever, but then they wouldn't also have the ad hominems attached. But he's saying he's noticed a pattern, which is so true, and that's the second thing that blew me away, because we all noticed this pattern for years now. All the people that have been red-pilled from, that have broken away from organized religion and so on, and we understood that there's Christ, all you're going to do is look at quantum physics for 5 goddamn minutes, really, and then you'll at the very least go from atheist to agnostic immediately when you look at quantum physics. So, so even from that level onwards, when you start figuring out, okay, there's more to this just physical universe, right? You immediately start realizing the things that he's talking about. You're like, wait, why is it looks like, I don't want to use the C word, but it's almost like there's a plot, instead of saying the C word, CONSPIR, whatever. It's like a massive plot by shadowy figures who we don't know who they are. I mean, he says it's CIA or whatever, but whatever it is, they seem hell-bent on ridiculing even the very idea of the supernatural / the occult / spirituality. Because they want us. See, I've got a reason for why. I've understood why, but he seems to not know at the moment. But at this level of his awakening journey, because he started pretty late. You should do that in your mid-20s, Tucker, not mid-50s. But hey, kudos to him. It's amazing that he's actually done it at least. They want people to not to think the spirit does not exist. That it's just only trapped in matter. Okay, it's probably an easier way to control people. That's why, giving you a hint about the further breakdown that I will give a bit later. But let's see what he says.
The fuck out of there, okay, A. But B, why has that been so important for 80 years for you to convince me the supernatural is not real? Why? Why is that? And of course I can't answer the question, but my...
Sorry, I accidentally pressed the space button.
Gut level response is, well, because if it is real. Whatever they're telling you is not real, and if they're punishing you for saying something you know for a fact it's not real, you're not allowed to say that. Oh, not because they don't have no problem with me lying, because they lie for a living. So lying brings no sanction. You can lie all you want. What you can't do is tell the truth. That is a fact. So once you know that, you can sort of reverse engineer their lies and know with some certainty that whatever they're telling you is not true is in fact true. That's exactly the truth. It's exactly the truth. But then you have to ask motive. Like, it's not a profit motive. Like, does it make them rich to deny that there's supernatural forces? No.
No.
What is that? And I don't know the answer, but...
See, it's interesting. He says he doesn't have the answer. I don't have the answer, he said, because, like I said a minute ago, he's new to, he's newly red-pilled, in the sense that, he's only just starting to break out of the confines of the standard Christian narrative, or the narrative that fake news and fake education gives us, fake history, all this stuff. And for some reason or other, he got especially red-pilled on the UFO subject, which it shouldn't really gel with his whole, with a traditional Christian mindset. The two don't mix. It's like oil and water, and yet he realized he was saying, I don't know if he was saying it before or he was going to say it in the subsequent 3 minutes, whatever, 3.5 minutes that are left, he was kind of going down the ancient astronaut type of theories, you know, and he said that he couldn't help but notice that, you know, the Hindu religions and the Greek, you know, there's Greek pantheons and all these other ones and the Egyptian ones that pretty much have the same story, like of the gods coming down and mingling with humans. So he's kind of going down the Anunnaki path. So that's a pretty substantial degree of red pilling in a pretty short time, because he reckons like this happened to him in about, you know, 2021 or something, like a couple of years ago. So it hasn't been long. So, you know, it's early 50s, whatever, mid 50s, however old he is, 54 or whatever. That's pretty cool. That somebody like him has been a Christian forever. Suddenly at about 50, 51, he just has this epiphany about the UFOs for some reason. But this should not be compatible with the standard Christian, blue-pilled Christian narrative, right? That he's been fed all his life, that he's been programmed with. So that's pretty amazing. But because he's only just come out of that Christian blue-pilled world, or let me word it in a more poetic way, he's only just regurgitated the Christian blue pill, right? He's only like partially thrown it up, okay? So there's many more elements. So it's too soon for him to understand the why, because he was like, to understand why they deliberately want to hide the truth from us about, you know, that the spirit world is real. He is going to have to understand that occultism is actually the highest science. There's like material science, there's a mid-level, which is the quantum physics, the quantum mechanics stuff, which kind of shows us glimpses of, okay, there's something more, you know, to the Newtonian physics, that everything is not just mechanical and find the table, knocking on the table there, you know, mechanical and materialist stuff, and you know, just linear time, like things are non-linear. This whole thing with quantum physics, where the observer effect, you know, when something's a wave and then you observe it and suddenly it becomes a particle. It's like, what the if I had never observed it, will it have never manifested? But how does any of this exist in the first place? Why aren't we all permanently in a state of formless waves, you know, like of just potential? It's amazing, like it's because God is a contradiction, you know. So it's a paradox. Sorry, that's a better word. That's the actual term. Yeah, God is a paradox. So that's what quantum physics shows us. But that's the limit. That's the furthest we can go with quantum physics to understanding the infinite. Okay. But still within the confines of our third dimensional viewpoint, our linear understanding in this world, and you know, by doing scientific experiments and stuff, and using, you know, standard mathematics and stuff. Like mathematics is like the language of logic, right? So, but then beyond that, the third level of that is spirituality and occultism. This is why things like astrology are real. This is why things like meditation and Reiki and NoFap and all these praying, visualization, that's why all that stuff works. That's why yogis, you have yogi superpowers that people have, like, you know, they're doing NoFap. If a yogi person, someone like Paramahansa Yogananda, that were straight doing brahmacharya, colloquially known as NoFap, the past few years, all their lives basically, okay, never ejaculated once in their life. Well, maybe they have, I don't know, but maybe they did once or twice in the early teens and then never again. But some of them never, right? I've done this, okay? I can make many other videos about this subject. It's helped me more than anything ever has in my life, ever. You know, that's a little parentheses to give my male viewers some hints as to the topics that would come in the future of this particular YouTube channel. So that's why all these things work. You have some of these yogis, like they do legit miracles. I don't remember his name. There was one guy, he's famous for it, where he was a nofap king, and he was demonstrating it, like they were video recording him going to the gym and lifting crazy weights that should not be, okay, that you could only do with steroids, but he wasn't taking any. You could see his body wasn't. He had an alright, but like an average, like kind of like a swimmer physique. He wasn't jacked full on. He was lifting crazy weights, and I've had experiences like this, not to that extent, but I have seen. I've gone about halfway, okay, partially. Like I've done the first nofap I did when I was about 30. I did it for almost a year straight, and I got effects like these, but not to the extent, it didn't get to X-Men level powers, but I saw a lot of glimpses. I saw a lot of the beginnings of what could be if one did this for many years, or for the rest of their lives, for all of their life. I could totally see how this could work. I could totally see how those yogi powers, the siddhis, for those who don't know, SIDDHI, siddhi, singular, and plural, with an S at the end, if you want to Google that one, if you've never heard of that word. So that's why spirituality works, because it's the highest level of understanding, okay? It's the highest science. So that's why these occultists, these black magicians who rule us behind the scenes, they rule with that, by using that. And he gets a glimpse of this. He kind of sort of mentions that a bit later on, but he doesn't conceptualize it. He doesn't describe it, put it quite in the package that I just did, because he, like I said, he's only newly woken up from the Christian blue pilldom.
The obvious answer is, well, because they sort of know they're working for supernatural forces.
There you go.
Actually. And I think that...
So he understood that part, that he's like, well, this cabal, whoever it is, they're working for supernatural, and obviously he doesn't, I don't know if he explicitly says it, but he understands that they're working for the bad, for the dark side. I mean, it's like in this is shown to us in Star Wars, all of it, 100%. Star Wars should be subtitled, the 6 official movies that were made anyway. It should be notice what I did there, 6 official movies. It should be subtitled "The Truth About Everything" of how the world works, but shown through fiction. Okay, a lot of people don't seem to realize how blatant Star Wars is. Like, I mean, so many people analyze all these Hollywood movies and stuff. Oh, this shows the truth about this and that, and predictive programming, blah blah blah. Either that, or it's warning, or he's a good guy. The director's a good guy and he's warning us. Nobody ever has done more in this particular department than Lucas, with the first six official Star Wars films. Yeah, only official Star Wars films. You see what I'm saying there? Yeah. It's incredible. Like, he shows Palpatine basically gets rid of the Jedi, and then in the original trilogy, where chronologically it's supposed to be about 20 years after Revenge of the Sith, after he gets rid of the good guys, what we find is that Luke and everyone else, pretty much, every other citizen of the galaxy at that point, Luke doesn't even know what the Force is. He's like, the Force? He doesn't, like, and Obi-Wan, one of the last remaining Jedi, has to explain it to him. Because at that point, the Emperor has suppressed all knowledge of spirituality. This is what it's showing us. But he uses it. He uses the dark side. But to everyone else in the galaxy, it's like the Force. What's that? They're not supposed to know. Because if they know, what's going to happen? We might get... There's like a risk that characters like Luke Skywalker might rise up potentially and train and use this spiritual power for the good and destroy the bad guy. There you go. So Star Wars basically shows us everything of how this works. That's what I do in my novels as well, but it just goes way deeper. You'll see when I read the excerpt later.
That's probably true. And the U.S. government is millions of people.
Is there a specific reason or a handful of reasons, or is this a hunch that you believe that they're working with the supernatural realm or have a
No,
relationship?
I can't prove that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm suggesting that. I'm not saying it because I can't prove it, but I'm suggesting it. And if you're asking whether I believe it, the answer is yes.
So this next part's very interesting. He says something like that, some insider basically told him that that's what's going on. This is amazing. Can you imagine like some CIA whistleblower or something telling him, hey, we use spiritual power, whatever. Oh, amazing. Come on. Whoops. Getting a bit of an issue with my internet. Oh, come on. Is this the dark side trying to stop me? Sorry, boys and girls.
And if you're asking whether I believe it, the answer is yes. But I believe that for two reasons. One, because I've told that directly by a couple of people who I think seem knowledgeable. And I attach some weight to that, though not conclusive weight. I don't know. Right? I don't know. I wasn't there. Maybe they're super sophisticated liars. Maybe they're telling me the same lie for some reason. Maybe it's all part of a disinformation campaign.
No.
All the geniuses on the internet, the really smart kids seem to think it's all your.
No, that doesn't make sense. I mean, see what he's trying to say there. He's like, well, is it possible that all these insiders / whistleblowers or whatever we want to call them, informant, whatever sources, why, would it make sense for them to be like making this unbelievably, incredibly, like annoyingly elaborate scheme to give him disinformation, okay, to convince him that the bad guys are actually working with spiritual forces, obviously dark ones, and that it would be like some kind of misinformation campaign to make him think that. But why would they do that? Obviously, it's true. There is such a thing as whistleblowers. Most people are good people, and a lot of the time their conscience, their conscience is heavy, and they want to come out and expose what's going on, but they can't do it openly. So that's why we get the whistleblowing phenomenon, or unnamed sources, anonymous sources, that type of thing, right?
Falling for the disinformation. Yeah. Thanks, son. I know a lot about disinformation campaigns. Okay. But it's like one of my few areas of expertise, having participated in many unknowingly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So either they're totally lying or they're telling the truth. But the other reason that I think that is for the reason just stated, which is that their main goal, when I hear a bunch of lying, I want to recognize that it's lying. It's untrue. Like, I know that's untrue. Then I want to ask, what's the nature of the lie? What exactly are they trying to get me to believe or not believe? That's really
I'll pause it here. A short message about my book now is going to show. I think it's about a minute or a little less than a minute. It's really nice, very professionally made. I think you'll enjoy it, and I will see you in a second. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that, and you also have the option to get the first chapter for free so you can try before you buy, so to speak. It's totally free, no email sign up required or anything. It's just the first chapter. I don't care, I'm just giving it out for free so I can promote this thing. And you'll find the link to that down below. Just click on the link and you can just go on the download page. Okay, let's get back into it. Let's see what the man says.
Important. What is it? Like, what's so important to them that they're going to all this effort, spending all this money, getting all these journalists to repeat, knowingly or not, repeat their lies? Like, why?
No.
Why are they doing that?
Well,
it takes time to do that. It's a big effort to lie. It's much harder to lie than tell the truth.
I love how you said that. That's another thing I loved about this video. I love this guy. And I found out just recently that he wrote all his stuff, like when he was on Fox News, on his show, he would write all his stuff. Okay, so he's pretty much completely independent. It's amazing how he got away with it for such a long time, but I just love how he thinks. I could get along with this guy so amazingly well, I reckon. I would imagine interviewing him would be epic. Anyway, so that's just me dreaming now. Fanboy fantasies. So it's amazing that like a lie. It's so much harder to lie than to say the truth. The truth is just the most powerful thing, right? I mean, it looks like, we get attacked for saying the truth in the beginning, like him or like Jordan Peterson and others. But like the truth is so powerful, it wins out in the end because the truth is eternal. It cannot be stopped. Okay. It cannot be falsified, so it has a power, like it really is the most powerful thing there is, okay? Even Jesus said, like, I'm a weird case. Like, I believe in Jesus, like I don't disagree with anything the Bible says about him, basically, because I've had my own experiences, healing experiences and visions and all kinds of, kind of like the kind of stuff that the born-again Christians say that happened to them with faith healings and stuff. I've had that, but like one-on-one. I've never been like a member of any type of Christian group aside from the Orthodox thing that I am on paper. But at the same time, I don't accept the biblical ideas. Like I'm not, Adam and Eve and all this stuff. But what he said, a lot of the stuff that Jesus says is gold. I mean, know the truth and the truth shall set you free. There's nothing, I mean, that's like, really, this might be hyperbolic, but I think that's the greatest quote of all time. It beats all the Greek philosophers and the Chinese philosophers and the newer guys, the French and German philosophers of the past 500 years or whatever. I think that's the greatest quote of all time. Okay, know the truth and it shall set you free. So it's amazing how he said that, and it's incredible. Like, why would they, like, all this effort to convince us that there's no such thing as a spiritual realm? It's what I was saying before. It was like because it's brilliantly shown to us in the 6 official Star Wars films. In this particular Earth timeline, there are only 6 Star Wars films made. They said it with the Emperor. It's like nobody knows what the hell the Force even is by the time A New Hope begins. Okay, only the handful of Jedi that remained. That didn't get purged by Order 66. Okay.
So why bother? And then the third question you have to ask is what is that? What does that mean?
No kidding.
And then, of course, I don't know the answers, but it's very suggestive. One thing I do know, and if you look at like the New York Times or Popular Mechanics or any of I say Popular Mechanics, I'm getting that wrong. I think it's Popular Mechanics, but there are a bunch of different stories that have run over time debunking certain claims about UAPs, UFOs. And some of them are quite vehement and sophisticated and mean, too.
And they're quite
people who believe in this stuff aren't just wrong, they're crazy.
Yeah.
They're conspiracy theorists. They're like pedophiles, kind of, in a way.
Yeah. It's like... See, I alluded to this earlier. I probably shouldn't do this when I do reactions, but, I kind of give spoilers to people sometimes. But I was alluding to this earlier, saying that he was going to say this thing that he said now. But we'll break it down a little bit more now. It's fascinating to me, as it is to him now that he figured it out, that you could say millions of things about anything, but they won't. Well, not anything, but I mean, there's a handful of topics that they will do that same. They will use that same tactic on you that he just said there. But one of the big ones is a UFO thing, and when they do debunk it, they make absolutely sure they double and triple check that they're gonna hammer the UFO believers down. They grind us into dust, to pulverize us, so we'd like to crush us to the point where we will never get up again and never, to basically break people's, not will, that's too extreme to say, like ridicule the idea to such an extent, okay? It's like that whole, every time a man says something about a woman, that even if it's perfectly legitimate criticism, it's misogyny, okay? Or like if I come out and make a post, I mean on X, probably on Twitter we can probably get away with it or whatever, but anywhere else, like I say something like, Greeks are amazing, and like make an entire video just praising the Greeks constantly. You'd be like, oh, this was flagged because of supremacy. Like, what are you talking about, supremacy? So there are a couple of topics that always, and they don't just say, no, I don't agree with that. They also have to add the Orwellian buzzword to the end of it, in the end, as an epilogue, right, to finish you off. So to scare you, to prevent you from, like they just want to finish you off, basically, okay, so that you never look at that thing again, or even if you do, to ensure that you don't talk about it to other people, especially not on social media, so that God forbid that a positive or true message might spread, i.e. nationalism, benevolent nationalism is actually the natural state of humanity. Like every single tribe exists, every single race today exists because of the nationalistic instinct. So that's one thing they try to smash constantly. Another thing is like, everything's a social construct with agendas. They're not apples and oranges. They're trying to say apples are oranges. Apples and oranges are the same, didn't you know? So that, and the third thing, what he's saying now is like trying to ridicule the fact that the spirit realm even exists to begin with. Okay. And it appears that out of all these three things that I said, that one is the one that they are afraid of the most. They're afraid of it, coming out, and the people, the masses, starting to understand that, this thing, that quantum physics, as I was saying earlier, the second level of understanding, we have the materialistic science, which is science in quotation marks. It's a bloody joke is what it is. Scientism, more like it. It's more a religion than it is a proper science. And then you have the second level, which is the quantum, the level that quantum mechanics raises us up to. And then beyond that, you have the real stuff, which is the spiritual technology, spiritual science, okay? AKA the occult. The occult, I mean, every man and his dog by now, even my grandma knows that occult simply means hidden, okay? Its etymologically comes from the Latin occultare, which means to hide, something like that. It's not 1000% verbatim, but if you look it up, it's pretty much what I said, because I've looked into this in depth. But these are buzzwords. When people hear them, they get a knee-jerk fight or flight reaction. This is how these buzzwords work. The intelligence agencies, CIA, and all those people that perpetrate psyops and so on the planet. They know these technologies, they know this mind control technology, they know that certain buzzwords, when they are injected and imbued with a negative connotations by constant repetition in the media, like the media constantly telling us that this word has that meaning, and yet they attach it to this and that. It's like, eventually, subconsciously, our subconscious comes to associate that particular buzzword with X bad thing, with so and so bad thing. So then, whenever we hear said word, whatever it may be, conspiracy theorist in this case, or something like that, you know, like I was saying earlier, like the white nationalism word or something, you know, it's like nationalism is the most natural thing on earth. Every tribe, like it's ingrained in every single person's DNA to have that. Like, are you supposed to hate your kin? Listen to me, look at me in the eyes and answer me this. You don't have to comment underneath, but answer to yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and answer. Am I supposed to hate my children, my parents, my brother, my sister, my cousins, my kinsmen? What is the alternative to nationalism? I mean, it's so messed up. So that the most natural thing in the world, they try to make it evil, and then they attach the word. They prefix it with the word white as well, white nationalism, and suddenly it's like this evil thing. Why? And what about yellow nationalism, red nationalism, brown nationalism, black nationalism? Would that be equally bad? No, because they haven't made those terms into buzzwords by constant repetition, which associates these words in articles and in videos and news stories with negative things. So it's the same thing with conspiracy theorists, that we've never seen an article from fake news ever, or from fake education, aka academia. Never associated the word conspiracy theorist with something positive. Okay, have you ever seen an article or a news story, some talking head on the news saying, conspiracy theorist, he did this, he saved an old lady from something? Like, it's always associated with something bad. So then the muggles, i.e. the people that are like not in the 5% top of the IQs, okay, from the 95 percenters, basically are the muggles of this world, which more or less mostly function on the two lower minds, which is the reptile brain and the emotional mind, or the what's called the limbic system. They rarely, if ever, function from the what's it called, the frontal cortex, right? Neocortex. Okay, so that's reserved for the top 5% of intelligences, which more or less 90% of the time, or maybe 100% of the time, they function entirely from logic. The rest of the people, aka the masses, they go back and forth from the R complex, the reptilian mind, to the limbic system, which is the emotional mind. And it is in the emotional and the reptilian minds where these programs have been embedded. So then whenever they hear these words, it's like this, it's a mind control. It's like those of you who are familiar with, because most of us pretty much, like the MK Ultra type of stuff, is pretty much out in the open if you really want to find out how it works. Like people like Fritz Springmeier and so on wrote books about how that works. So it's known that basically they have these trigger words, okay, that they've implanted people with, and they use particular words like to activate certain elements, facets of their personality. So alters, that's right, that's what I was looking for. Not altars that you pray to, because a lot of people misspell it as such. Alter, A-L-T-E-R, not A-L-T-A-R. Alters, as in ulterior, alternative, others. That's what that means, like other personalities, but which are hidden. And a particular buzzword, particular trigger word that only the person's handler knows, says that word to them, and then suddenly they get, the alternate personality gets switched on, and they become an assassin or whatever they have to do, a sex slave. And then they have another word that they use to switch it off, and then the person goes back into his normal personality, his regular personality that he mostly runs on. The rest of it is the other one, or other ones, they may have many alters, neatly compartmentalized in the recess, deep in the recesses of their mind, and they're not even aware of it. But a lot of the times, it's like they malfunction, so to speak, for lack of a better word. A malfunction, that's a bit of a cold term because they're not robots, but a computer will malfunction, not a human. But the brain is kind of like a computer, so it malfunctions, let's say. And that's how we get a lot of these, the whistleblowers that come out, and we hear these so-called crazy stories, apparently crazy stories on the internet about all this kind of stuff. And most people, the mainstream, of course, debunks all that stuff, and these poor people, they really don't have like a lot of documented evidence to prove their case. Well, the only proof, the biggest proof, is that there are so many of them who don't know each other and who live in different countries and during different eras. People from 30 years ago that are now passed away were saying the same things that people who are now 25 saying the exact same things, and they're in different countries and have never read the books or seen the videos of that previous person from 30 years ago. And they're all saying the freaking same things. So that's proof for you that exists, that technology. So they use a light version of this, LITE. It's like, I call it, for years on my Facebook posts and so on, I call it MK Ultra Light, LITE. What they do to us on fake news. That's why from like 20 years, almost 30 years now, 25 years plus, I never watch fake news. I haven't been watching news. I just don't watch news. That's why when Trump came out and started yelling at it and calling it fake news, I'm like, yeah, this guy's a messiah, a political messiah. The Muggles didn't know that news was fake. We already knew 20 years before that news was fake. Trump just gave a name to it and was fighting it constantly. That's why we love him. So back to the topic now. Basically, they do use these buzzwords as a way to mind control us. So that's why I call it MK Ultra Light. That's why you should avoid watching fake news like the plague, because what they do is like I explained before, they use these buzzwords. For instance, conspiracy theorists in our case, and not once ever, like you can do a massive search on the internet and look at the fake news articles, do like a control F type of thing to find all articles ever written by fake news, online stuff that you find, and see, the ones that mention the word conspiracy theorist. You will never, not once, find an article that has this word, that mentions this word, an article to be positive, to present the person or group or whoever they're labeling as such. They'll never present the person or group or book or whatever it is, or video in a positive light. Ever, never. I've never seen it once, not once. I mean, the track record is incredible, because they say in this life there are no absolutes. But that one is an absolute. That's 100% of the time. Never. It's like, they never say anything positive. Like 0% of the time it's positive and 100% is negative. So this is what's going on. And why would they be going to such extraordinary lengths to shut us down with these Orwellian MK Ultra style trigger words, buzzwords that make the unwashed masses have visceral reptilian brain, hindbrain responses, because they've seen thousands of articles or news stories and stuff that associate that particular word with negativity, but they don't even know why they're getting all worked up when they hear that word. It's because they've been programmed by watching this filth or reading it for years and years. And it's like the reptilian / emotional brains immediately, it's brainwashing basically. So but it's light. That's why I call it LITE, light, because it's not as full on as, when they create like an MK Ultra, full on MK Ultra assassin, like like was depicted in Jason Bourne films with what's his name, with Good Will Hunting. But Isn't it? Matt Damon. Yeah, he's a great actor. But yeah, it nevertheless it is a form of brainwashing. Okay, it's just milder. They use basically the same concept that they use in when they create their full-on mind-controlled slaves through MK Ultra programming, but they use it on the masses en masse. Okay, and they use like Hollywood and whatever the fake news and everything to reinforce that program. That's why you need to avoid fake news at all costs, like absolutely avoid it, right? So it's very difficult to deprogram people with these words. Okay, we need to figure out a way to do a mass deprogramming of these particular terms. There's not many of them. There's about only 4 or 5 of them. Conspiracy theorist, misogynist, white nationalist, white supremacist. There's less than 10 of them, right? Straight white male. It's amazing, like how, like how in I don't even know how to word this. Like I'm trying to use like a really hyperbolic entry into this, but I'll just say it. How on earth can just the phrase straight white male suddenly evoke negative feelings? It was done by design. Like I said with the term conspiracy theorist, go find on Google a single article that says straight white male, but it's positive. The only one you find is like the manosphere stuff, the men's rights people who are talking about it in positive light, explaining what I'm explaining now. That it's used as a negative buzzword. Another one is toxic masculinity. So there's about less than 10 of these terms, and they're all designed to destroy the concept of authentic masculinity, to destroy our search for truth, to stop us from criticizing bad behavior from protected, marginalized groups, so-called marginalized. We live in a matriarchy, effectively, because when you live in a country, in a civilization, in a society where women can freely do anything they want to a man and use verbal violence against him, because women do psychological and verbal violence, because that's their style, that's how they're designed by nature. But men do it, men are more physical with it, okay? When a woman can do her thing, what I just described, to a man, with complete impunity, like there's no, first of all, we have no way to determine such violence, like we don't know, like there's no sort of way to measure like the levels of it. So it's like, oh well, she used the force, the verbal force, the psychological force that she used in this case was 8 out of 10. There's no scale, okay, no frame of reference, and there's no visible scars. Like a person could say, oh, I did this and that to me. It's like, well, prove it, unless you record it, okay? Unless it's got to get to the point. It needs to get to the point where we're just going to have to. Intelligent men of means will have to be having recording the interactions with their girlfriend until they get to know them, of course, and until he gets to know her and knows that she's not psycho. But in the beginning of the relationship, you'll have to constantly have like CCTV in your rooms everywhere, and if you don't. In cases where you don't, you'll have to be constantly recording everything, like with an MP3 digital recorder 24/7 wherever you're with her, just to say, oh, there you go, at 2 hours 37, there you go, she said it was this, and it's this thing, and she's the one that started it, and she was lying about saying that I just got aggressive for no reason. You know what I'm saying? There's no recourse for men, zero, and women do this with impunity. When you're living in a society where one side can use their version of violence, and the other one, i.e. men, this incredible thing that, like, this massive fuss that's been made for decades now about DV, domestic, you know what I mean? men get punished severely, and of course they should. I mean, because we have the power to end people, okay, physically weaker people, if our anger gets out of control, okay. But it's only one-sided. Male force ends people, could potentially end a person immediately, okay. If it's forceful enough, if it's done on the right spots on the body or whatever, especially if a person is a martial artist or something. But the feminine version of that is a slow burn thing. It's a long game, okay? It can gradually wear you down. We have no remedies for that, no recourse for that. Like I said a couple of minutes ago, no diagnosis for that, no... we don't have any effective ways of gauging what the levels of that emotional force or verbal force are, like on a scale of 0 to 10, or however we want to. I mean, 0 to 10 is arbitrary. It could be like 0 to 100 or whatever, or to 1,000. You could measure different. She went to level 637 out of 1,000 yesterday. Whatever. There's no way. We haven't developed, super cool spiritual technology or whatever that could sort of measure that thing. Yeah, they should make one of these devices one day. They should have one of those little things, and when she's girlfriend's going crazy at you, you can just scan her with this thing, go doo-doo-doo-doo, and it measures like the level, and you can record it, make like a snapshot of it, and then be able to go to the judge and say, look, I have a recording of this, and then the hologram comes up, holographic thing, recording of it comes up, and it measures the levels of a verbal aggression and everything, and then you'd say, Your Honor, as you can see, she went up to 600 out of 1,000 verbal aggression, emotional aggression levels yesterday, and then she did it again on Wednesday the 24th and Thursday the 25th, and then it kept going on for another 3 months, and I did nothing. So then finally I exploded. That would be the ideal society. That would be a perfect blend of matriarchy and patriarchy. Now it's just matriarchy, because it's all the men have got all the positions of power. What positions of power? I just explained. The most important thing, which is regulating the use of force and the particular style of force that each gender uses, regulating it properly and instituting laws and ways of understanding it and handling it and healing it when someone goes through the emotional abuse and all that. It's only one-sided. There's only on the male side do we notice it, and do we penalize it, and do we have laws written against it to prevent it. The feminine one, first of all, most people don't even notice it, and then if they do, they ignore it, and it's like brushed under the rug. It's this constant thing that happens. So I could be going on for hours. I could make an entire channel just about this type of stuff, but it's not. This channel is about all kinds of stuff, about the culture war, politics, the dating stuff, like I've been saying now. But I had to point this particular one out because it was from a couple of minutes ago when I said, that straight white male phrase, or toxic masculinity. You know that it's BS, all these terms, straight white male, toxic masculinity. You absolutely know it's BS when we live in a society where what I just described is the actual reality. When you get to the point where only one side of the aisle is penalized for losing control and using force and using their preferred method of force, which is the masculine version of that is physical, whereas the other side, people don't even know it exists. It's not even what I said before. I don't want to repeat it again. That means it's not a patriarchy, because the laws are not. There's not a single law written to protect the males from the damage that they can receive from the other side. So that is case closed. People will say, yeah, but that's just one aspect. Well, but force is the be all end all. Okay, it's like if you let the other side use its version of force with impunity constantly, and you don't even know it's there. Most blue-pilled assholes don't even understand that. Like first, there's a lot of people that when they would hear this that I've been saying the past few minutes, they'd be like, "Oh, that's never occurred to me." And the ones that are really blue-pilled will just will attack me for it. It's like, "Oh, my reptilian mind now is just losing the plot, so I have to attack you," because it's like it's messing with it. Because it's like you're starting to deprogram them, and the initial, that, I don't know who said it, some French intellectual, I think, is like first, what is it, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they attack you, then they finally agree, they finally fucking realize you were right all along. They could have done it from the start, but, people have to be dumb, of course, because 95% of people are not very high on the IQ, so they have to take these. It has to take them a fucking while to get the objective truth. So a lot of people will be like, "Oh, why is he saying truths? The Matrix told me the complete opposite stuff all my life. I can't listen to these truth bombs now," and they attack because of that a lot of the time. Nevertheless, these things are true that I'm saying, because I'm describing the reality of what's happening. I mean, it is true that there are no ways to gauge the female form of aggression, or to even just classify it even. I mean, there's no definition for it. I mean, there's some psychologists and stuff that have done work on this. Jordan Peterson talks about it a lot. That's one of the great things that he does, aside from everything else. That's one of the very important things that he's brought to light in this world that's only skewed one way. Nevertheless, we have no. Men are completely at the mercy of that other side of the aisle, and a big way in handling it is just by avoiding relationships, or like putting so many protective measures together. One of them being becoming a super high value man and having a lot of money and wealth and stuff, so they would be able to have like some kind of protection against the state, which is completely feminized by now at this point, So that was a long rant about that one, but it's very, very important, because it explains to people, it demonstrates, that they have these buzzwords, straight white male. I mean, what is that? That's not even a slur. It's just a descriptor. It's like, you know what I mean? Straight white male. It's the same as saying blue coffee cup. It's not a slur. It's not. Imagine two cups saying. It's like this bottle saying to this cup, "You're a blue cup," and he's supposed to feel bad about it. Literally, it's just a descriptor. It's just saying. It's like saying, "Oh, it's a red Ferrari." What the fuck? If you really think about it, that's all it is. It's just you're a straight white male. Yeah, I know, no shit. Why do you have to tell me? And why do you have to tell me in a way as if it's just derogatory? Like, it's like looking at someone saying, "You're 6 foot tall and you got black hair. So there." Like, how the fuck? How's that an insult? You're just saying what is. It's like, the sky's blue. And no shit. It's like there's someone telling you, "You're a straight white male." Like, yeah, thank you, I didn't know that. Thanks for pointing it out to me. Let me see in the mirror. Oh, I've never noticed before. I'm a straight white male. How the fuck did that become a slur suddenly? It's just a descriptor. Like, if you go on one of those programmers, because I'm a writer, I know about all these things, like, involved with all this stuff. Grammarly, where you go and it helps you with grammar and stuff, with editing. Go on Grammarly on one of those things and say straight white male. What is it? It's just a descriptor. So how could a descriptor of a particular, demographic magically be turned into an insult, and people suddenly get this visceral reaction when they hear it? It's because it's been programmed that way. Because, like I said, you will not find a single article in fake news that has that term and associates it with positive things. Okay, so people have been mind controlled into magically associating with something negative. So I don't want to veer off too far and make this too long. Let's continue. Finish up here with our good friend, Mr. Tucker Carlson. But it's fascinating. Like people, I feel that people really had to know. Like I really had to do my best to explain how how I understand these buzzwords. These Orwellian buzzwords are. People are basically conditioned. Okay. They're conditioned like Pavlov's dogs. Okay. It really is a stimulant. I mean, I'm going to insult a lot of people now, but it needs to be said. You are a glorified stimulus response mechanism. You're like a slightly more intelligent version of Pavlov's dog. Okay? You're like a dog, trained dog. If you listen to these words and you get, okay? Because you let it seep in to your reptilian brain and your emotional, it goes into the subconscious of the emotional brain, and it goes even deeper and deeper and deeper, and it becomes part of your, because the reptile brain monitors all our bodily functions, right? It works automatically in the background, like helps us regulate everything, the heart pumping and digest the food and everything, and start when we need to go to the bathroom and stuff, and when we're tired and we want to sleep or we're thirsty, all that stuff. So it becomes ingrained, it becomes so deep, where it becomes literally part of your art complex of your physical, and you get like a physical, visceral response when you hear these words. That's what the cabal is fucking doing to you. I'm now, if you need to hear this, the universe has brought you here to see this, so, a lot of you are already red-pilled, the people that are going to come across this channel, but some of you need to hear this also, Sometimes it's good to insult people, because it's sort of like you can fast-track their awakening. Some people might disagree with this. It's like, if you were nicer, people might be more inclined to listen. Well, we've been nice for 20, 30 years now, and look what happened with COVID. That was the final proof that we needed, that people have not woken up. They've actually become dumber and more brainwashed. So now I'm just becoming offensive. Like, you have to, it's like, if you don't wake the fuck up, the planet's gone. I mean, we're going to lose, alright? So this is kind of like the attitude I have about the Great Awakening now. So yeah, I'll say it again. You are just a little bit more intelligent than Pavlov's dogs. If you don't know what Pavlov's dogs are, it's a very well-known thing, but some of them people might not know. Just Google it quickly. There will be Wikipedia pages on it and everything. It's a well-known thing. It's an experiment that this Pavlov, this scientist, did on these dogs. Okay. Where he was, I think it's like something to do like when they were hungry. Every time they were hungry, he was ringing a bell, and they were, and they associated the bell with hunger, with food. I think when he was feeding him, he was doing it. Either when they were hungry or when he was feeding him, and at some point, even when he was not feeding them, he was ringing the bell and they were salivating. Like, it was something along those lines. I didn't get it 100%, the details, but it's something along the lines of, it got to the point where they were getting the same physiological reaction by the sound of the bell, but without having the actual hunger or having the food nearby, which the smell of it, if they liked it, would make them salivate and so on. It was just happening automatically just by the association that they had made to the bell sound. So the bell, in this case, would be the trigger word. Okay, so you get this, because you've seen millions of articles and stuff that associate straight white male or conspiracy theorists etc. These handful of terms that I mentioned earlier, and you've seen so many of them, and every single time, 100% of the time, like I said before, there are no absolutes, but it seems in this case the only thing that's absolute is that 100% of the time they only make negative articles when it comes to whenever they have these words attached in the article, included in the article. So then it's deeply embedded in your subconscious that this particular word is associated with negativity. And then you don't even have to read any of the articles or whatever. The brain, it's like the brain, what am I doing? I keep playing with this bottle. All right, done. Yeah. And it's like brainwashing is complete after a certain point of having watched and read hundreds of these articles where only something negative is attached to these particular terms. And then all you've got to do is just, you hear the term, and then suddenly you think it's bad. Like I said earlier, straight white male is merely a descriptor. It's just saying what that person is. Okay? Right? So it's like an A4 paper. That's all it is. They could potentially go and do the same technique that I've been describing. I swear to God, they could be making articles over and over for years, everywhere. The fake news, that is. And every time they're saying A4, blank A4 paper, piece of paper, and it's attached to something negative, eventually the muggles, every time they're going to be hearing blank A4 piece of paper, they'll be getting this feeling, this fight or flight thing. They'll be thinking there's something negative attached to it. So they can do that with any term. And they do it deliberately. Okay? So that's why we are, like I said quite a bit earlier, we are under MK Ultra Light. L-I-T-E. Just like they have the light milk and the light yogurt and all that shit in the supermarkets. Alright, going to finish soon. And then I'm going to read you the excerpt from my book. It's going to blow you away because it's identical to what Tucker said here about them hiding the truth about the spirit world.
That's kind of why would you attack someone for that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm why do you care? I'm not a Buddhist, but I'm not mad at Buddhists.
I'm totally in line with what you're saying, and we had.
But why are they
There's just
doing
so
that?
many signs too. We had talked this morning about my experience about get slapped in the face by God, basically,
Yes.
right? And ever since then, I take a minute, I step back, and I try to find the symbolism in what I'm seeing at the moment.
Yes.
And I had told you I have a lot of pretty much everybody on.
Alright, I think we're done now. He's not really saying anything anymore. So that was basically it, what I wanted to react to. I probably went a bit longer than I thought, but I feel that I'm confident that the stuff I said was very important. It's very important to go a bit over schedule. Alright. So now I'm going to change it. So I'm going to bring up the thing. I've got it in a Word doc, like an earlier version of the book, Word doc. So here it is. There's some other stuff here that's irrelevant. So it starts from here. So this is talking about, because it's the end of chapter 2 here, right? So that chapter 3 starts there. It's just a Word doc. It's ages ago before I formatted it for Amazon or whatever. Alright, so, and it's talking about, the first few chapters are like how the protagonist got red pilled slowly, and he's talking about here that he's understood all this stuff, and also the narrator is sort of explaining things. Like a lot of the stuff is sort of explained through the protagonist's thoughts and stuff, but in this particular instance, like the narrator is explaining, is giving an extra sort of explanation here at the end of the chapter. So, but despite, I'll just highlight the bits I'm going to read. But this, I'll make it bigger. No, fuck it, no. But despite his relentless drive, that's the protagonist, so he's obsessed with warning the world about the grand conspiracy. Despite his drive to warn the world about the grand conspiracy, John is the character's name, felt that having a YouTube channel or a website wasn't enough. And he believed this applied to everyone, not just him. While there were hundreds of fabulous researchers, authors and speakers all over the world who dealt with these subjects, he wasn't satisfied with the impact their work was having on the planet at large. Something was amiss, so this guy's realizing that it's like no matter how many people are out there, you know, trying to read people through YouTube channels and so on, it's somehow not enough. We'll see why. Something was amiss. He could see there was no real change forthcoming. The same international banking families were still in power. The same political dynasties still held the highest positions of office in the senates and parliaments of the world. The police and military were still used as the bully enforcers of the cabal's every whim, and so on and so forth ad nauseum. JC, his name is John Casey, so call him JC sometimes. JC sometimes thought the only thing that had really changed compared to, say, a generation or two before his time was that people now knew the names of the criminals that were screwing them. But as enlightening as it may have been to know some of their slave masters' names, the earthlings were still slaves all the same. Nothing had changed, nothing at all really. So now we're getting to the crux of the thing, which is the thing that Tucker Carlson, the great Tucker Carlson, said. Maybe I should have started with this part, but it doesn't matter. He eventually concluded the problem boiled down to this. Most people did not want to accept the multidimensional nature of the grand conspiracy. But like it or not, this was the reality of the situation. And the only way the Earth humans could be freed from their slavery was to become multidimensional themselves, through making direct contact with the higher self. It was no easy task to try to convince the bulk of the population, however. And here we go, this is a real crux of it. So people, the point was that the best way to solve this, and as you can probably see, I'm like, this is a fantasy book, but I'm talking about real stuff that's happening on Earth that applies to us, to the Illuminati, Cabal, and whatever. Like, this is true what I'm saying, like the best way, the only way really to beat this is for everyone to become super spiritual and understand that the levels above what quantum physics is showing us, that's the thing we need to study and practice. I mean, it's not the scientism shit that's at the materialist level of science, okay? And yet the Cabal wants us to know only the materialistic aspect of science, so-called, okay? Why? Just like Tucker said, why? Gotta ask yourself why. So, the trouble was, Illuminati had done a fantastic job of either suppressing or ridiculing any reports of paranormal or metaphysical phenomena. Okay, I've got it in quotes, as in, because the fake news tries to present it as paranormal is not real. That's exactly what Tucker said. I'll read that again. See, this is why I was blown away. It's not like I just sat and wrote this now. I'm not making this up. This was written years and years ago. I'm like, fuck. I couldn't believe it. I was like, whoa. I had to rewind and I'm like, did he just say exactly what I'm saying in the book? Trouble was, the Illuminati had done a fantastic job of either suppressing or ridiculing any reports of paranormal or metaphysical phenomena. Okay? That's pretty much what he said. He just said, I say it in a different way, but it's the same thing. So, consequently, most people flatly rejected any notion that the conspiracy might have gone beyond the 5 sense world. and often did so without bothering to examine the supporting evidence. Evidence which, by the way, was freely available all over the internet. No kidding, okay? People have been so conditioned that they're like, oh, no, because it says it in the news, it's not, it's fake, so I'm not even going to research this. It's amazing. And yet, like, I and others like me keep saying, dude, just look at quantum physics for 5 goddamn minutes. You will at least, if you're if you're, you know, one of those most unfortunate people who are atheists, you will at least instantly go up to the level of agnostic, at least. 5 minutes of quantum physics will do that, unless the person is so retarded beyond repair that not even quantum quantum mechanics will prove to them, will elevate them to at least the mid-level of, of being halfway there, at least being agnostic. Yeah, there are some people that not even quantum mechanics will work on, but I mean, those people, they should make a meme when not even quantum mechanics convinces someone to at least become to start questioning that there might be prime creator, that you know that you're dealing with a muggle. Who was that man, that guy that had that, that comedy skit that all he was doing is like, you might be a redneck if, and then he would say so and so, various different things. Yeah. You might be a retard if not even quantum physics convinces you to at least become agnostic, right? That's a fact. Alright, so this irrational behavior was due, like the humans not wanting to even research spirituality. This irrational behavior was due to cognitive dissonance. And you will note that here I've got like endnotes, footnotes. It's become a glossary now. But in the beginning it started like as footnotes, and then it became endnotes, and I turned it to a glossary. There's hundreds of terms. See, that's like the definition I have there. I've done so much work on this thing. Anyway, so this irrational behavior was due to cognitive dissonance. If only people on Earth at the time knew how real magic and sorcery were. If only they knew their entire planet was controlled by dark magic, and they were, all of them, under a sinister spell, unknowingly kept in a perpetual global mass hypnosis, even as they scoffed at the notion of magic being real. It was right under their noses, yet they saw it not. Unbelievable as it might seem to us now. By the way, he's saying that this is a narrator. Apparently, it's a guy that wrote this book as a history book. He wrote it as a fiction book, but it's actually the true history of Earth and the galaxy. But it's written like 2000, like in the year 4000 or something, on another planet. You'll see if you buy it, when you buy it or read this. Even if you get the first 3 chapters, you will see that element of it. It explains it in the introduction. So yeah, apparently this is like the true history of Earth and of the Milky Way, but it's written 2,000 years later, like in the year 4000, blah blah, by the main heroes, great, he's one of his ancestors, right? He was become a king, of some galaxy or whatever, all this. So this is why occasionally there's bits where he's saying, this was the situation on planet Earth back then, because the narrator, the guy that's writing the story, he's some guy from the future that he's got records of Earth's history, and they release it in his galaxy at some point as a warning for his own people at that time to not repeat the mistakes that we did here in the Milky Way. So that's why I'm presenting it as kind of like a story told from that it's Earth's true history, but presented in a fictional format, written by a guy, 2,000 years in the future, who's John's descendant. It's amazing. It's an amazing little. It's kind of like my own version of that the Journal of the Wills thing from Star Wars. I won't explain what that is. The Star Wars fans will know. But I didn't do it on purpose. It just came out that way. Pretty much, I got the idea for this thing in an intense meditation session 19 years ago. So it just came to me like that. Anyway, I'll explain more about how all that happened in other videos, bit by bit. So that's just explaining why it's describing it as if it's like, what do you mean the situation on Earth back then? So hopefully that makes sense now. So yeah, it's the final sentence now here. 2 sentences. Unbelievable as it might seem to us now, that was the situation. This was the situation on the planet back then. That actually should be that, not this, isn't it? That was the situation. Yeah, I need to edit that. That was the situation on the planet Earth back then, and the majority of its inhabitants believed it to be a perfectly normal state of affairs. Imagine that. It's not hard to see that these poor people were in dire need of saving, and of course John Casey, that's the protagonist, was sent by Providence for this very reason. Alright? Yeah. So that's basically it, right? You can see now. I mean, there's no way that I made this up. I saw this video. I mean, and it's a recent upload. I don't know how many hours ago or whatever. Whether it's from a day ago, or maybe not even. Maybe it's like just hours, because maybe it had just uploaded when I saw it last night. So I don't know how many hours ago that Tucker clip was uploaded. So, you know, even if I have some cynical people saying, oh, he just wrote that up on the fly just to show, no, it was authentically synchronistic. I'm like, fuck, that is exactly like that scene that I wrote. I could have just made this all up now just to show you guys, just as an excuse to promote the book. I already said that from this video onward, I will be promoting the book on every video, at the very least, by showing that little 50-second, 60-second promo clip that I have. Yeah, but it was incredibly synchronistic. That the first video ever in which I would show the promo vid, which I'm pretty proud of, it's pretty professionally made, I think. It would be this one of Tucker. It's so, massively synchro. So yeah, right. It's incredible how that works. I don't want to keep beating a dead horse. I mean, I think I described at length how this type of mind control works, what they do to us with these buzzwords. But further to that, that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that, I mean, the buzzwords, conspiracy theorist, white nationalist, straight white male, straight white male, as in similar to just blue coffee cup. Imagine blue coffee cup and the coffee cup gets offended, or it's been so brainwashed, it's so fucked in the head, that at some point you convince it that when you're saying, hey, you're just a blue coffee cup, and it feels bad, it's like, oh, sorry for being a blue coffee cup. It's literally what straight white male is, or white nationalism, or anything. These are not negative terms. They're just descriptors. It's just a person who does not hate himself or his tribe, and he's from a particular race. It's just a descriptor. And it's amazing how it's done. Where it's like, but suddenly now that word though is negative. This is word magic. It's word magic. That they use sorcery. It's dark magic. So we need to fight it by creating, possibly we can fight it by creating our own positive words. Okay, I still haven't figured it out, but there has to be a way to undo this word magic. So, but that's not the point. I mean, it was fascinating to explain, it was important to explain what they do with these words. To get us to stop expressing ourselves and looking into the truth and so on, but for certain groups to unnecessarily hate themselves and so on. But the important thing is just like Tucker said, it's like they're trying to minimize the importance of the supernatural. That is it. Just like I said there in those few paragraphs of the book, it's like that is it. They are trying to make us think, like I said earlier on, in the middle of the video, or whatever. Like it's like it's all there, man. In the 6 official Star Wars films that exist in this version of Earth, he explained it. George Lucas. That's it. George Lucas, the current owner of Lucasfilm in this version of this special parallel Earth that I reside in, anyway. It's Darth Sidious. I mean, that's based on reality. I don't know to what extent he understands these things I'm saying now, or whether it's mostly just spirit speaking through him. That it's just like it comes through his right brain, which is, the collective unconscious and so on. And this is like spirit using art, an art form, to give us the truth of how the world works. But I would suspect that Lucas knows much more than we realize, because there's so many other things that point to it. Like that, I don't remember its name, but that moon, one of the moons of Saturn, a lot of you will know this theory. The moons of Saturn looks almost identical to the Death Star from Star Wars, the way it looked, especially the way it looked in The New Hope. Because it had a more of a retro look in The New Hope, like in the Return of the Jedi. It was more high tech because it was like the second one they built, and it was like half finished or whatever. But the proper one in the first one, first Star Wars, but chronologically the fourth. It always confuses the Muggles, that weird order of the movies. But anyway, and yes, people who have not watched Star Wars or don't like it, you can call them Muggles. Honestly, it's like saying someone, it's like having a conversation with someone with these Star Wars ignorant people. It's similar to like saying to someone, no, let me put it to you this, I'll rephrase that. It's similar to someone saying, oh, Led Zeppelin? No, never heard of them. Beatles? Are they that Swedish band? Like, it really is that bad. The people that say, oh, no. Well, not even one? No, not even A New Hope. No, I haven't watched that either. Come on. It's like someone saying, oh, Enter Sandman. What? I Was Made for Loving You. Huh? Nirvana? Who's that? Is that like that? Is that like a Buddhist band? Is it like a Buddhist god? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain things that you're almost required to at least watch once, like to know what the hell is going on Earth. But anyway, I'm a massive Star Wars fan, so that was a little bit, maybe what I said there was not fully objectively true. There's a bit of subjective, like, my opinion, subjective opinion in that one, but it's mostly objectively true, I think. Like I said, it's like someone saying they don't even know who Led Zeppelin is, let alone having heard any of their songs. I mean, it's just an impossibility for someone in this society to say that. Same goes with Star Wars. So, Star Trek, not so much. Star Trek, you don't need to watch it. Actually, if I'm being honest, you probably shouldn't watch it. You'll be better off. Your health will be much better if you don't, ever. Okay, maybe the second one, Wrath of Khan, and some of the TV shows. Anyway, alright, but these are very highly subjective opinions. They are not necessarily the opinions of YouTube, but they are all opinions on my own. Alright, so in all seriousness now, Star Wars, Lucas shows us exactly what is going on with the Darth Sidious thing, and like I said, he probably knows because he probably is part of the in crowd, just like a lot of the David Icke type of people tell us, that Lucas is an insider, because it's just like with this smoke, there's fire. I mean, if it was just one thing, I'm like, yeah, okay. But there's so many things. I mean, especially that thing about how the Death Star looks almost identical to that moon of Saturn. And then when you look at the occult aspect of the thing with Darth Sidious, with the Sith in general, they are actually a dark Saturnian society, dark Saturnian cult. Lo and behold, the Death Star looks like one of Saturn's moons, not like one of Jupiter's moons or any other, specifically of Saturn's. So there's so many connections there. I mean, but I can make separate videos about that. I don't want to make this reaction video about 5 topics in one. But this is explained specifically because this is mentioned specifically because of the Darth Sidious figure, because it fits exactly with what I'm saying. about the fact that, like Darth Sidious, like I said earlier, I'll just repeat it one more time and we'll end there. In the fourth Star Wars film, chronologically, but first one that was made in 77, released 77, but it's the fourth one in the internal chronology. So from the third one to the fourth one, which is like bridging the two trilogies. So it was the first three films, and in the last one of that, Revenge of the Sith, the bad guys win. So the Emperor, the character that's known as the Emperor of the galaxy, takes over. He kills the Jedi, which, for those who don't know, it's unfortunate souls who have never tasted the glory that is Star Wars. These two factions of spiritual warriors. The Jedi are like the good guys, and the Sith are like a breakaway from the Jedi were part of the same group, but thousands of years ago, at some point back in time, they split from the Jedi. The Jedi are kind of like, Knight Templar type, like warrior monks type of thing, and they have all these mystical powers like telepathy and telekinesis and whatever, but they use it for the good, right? So then the bad guys split off from them and they call themselves the Sith, S-I-T-H. That's one of the variations of pronouncing their name. The god Set, by the way, which is like the dark brother of Osiris. That's another rabbit hole. So I'm like, okay. That's one of the Sith is one of the pronunciations of Set. I'm like, okay. Total accident that there's all these things in Star Wars, including the Death Star looking like the Saturn moon and everything. So these Sith, there's the Grand Master of them, like a leader, the greatest one of them ever, apparently. He features in the story, and he's the main antagonist of all the official 6 Star Wars films that have been made up to this point. And he's Darth Sidious. Most commonly, usually not, known as the Emperor, usually. So he wins by the end of the third film, and then from the third to the fourth film, it's been about approximately 20 years past. And the protagonist of the next trilogy, which, the fourth, fifth, and sixth film, the final Star Wars film that's been made on this earth, the Return of the Jedi, is the protagonist in that one is Luke Skywalker, who's about 20 in the first film. So in that 20-year gap, in the third film he's a baby, in the fourth film is about 19, 20. Technically it's 19 years, I think, yeah. It's a magic number. I can make like a video about that one. There's some occult significance about 19. I'll tell you why, because it's in other fantasy films as well. They use, instead of saying 18 or rounding it up to 20, it's 19 instead. It appears in other classic films as well. So 19 years. So anyway, in that time, this Emperor figure, who's like the greatest super Sith Lord of all time, he has suppressed all knowledge of spirituality, of the spiritual realm. And in the Star Wars universe, they, instead of calling it God, they call it the Force. It's kind of like this impersonal energy that the psychic people, the Jedi type of people can tap into. He has killed, in the third film, all the good guys, and he's taken over the galaxy. And by this point, 20 years later, like, nobody really knows basically that the spirit world exists. Nobody believes in spirit, the existence of spirit. Why? Why would this guy do this? Because, like I said earlier, if people knew that the true power lies in working with spiritual power instead of just materialist stuff, The true science is the spiritual science, spiritual technology, occultism, right? Occult, like I said, occult merely means hidden. I couldn't be bothered giving links and stuff underneath. Just Google it. Etymology of occult. You'll find it. And it's a bit of a test for you as well. It's like the universe is making me do this, right? Like to make you look for it. I'm not going to give it to you on a platter in the description box. If you're interested in learning what the etymology of occult is, you will look it up, and you know, Google is your friend. You can find it in 2 seconds. So please do so if you want to. So the occult means hidden. So hidden knowledge. All right. There you go. The emperor hid the stuff, so it's hidden. It wasn't before he took over. It wasn't before he took over the galaxy. After he took over, he made it hidden knowledge. Okay. So the religious retards, no matter what you tell them, oh, they're occult, satanic. You show someone what the etymology of a word is, they read it, they see it for themselves, they cross-reference it with 1,000 different books and links and everything. Next day, 24 hours later, again the programmer kicks in. But I can't, my brain is like, oh my God, but occult means Satan. How many times do you need to read the real etymology and meaning of a word to understand what it actually means? And to stop finally being triggered by the fake meaning of it that you think is real, that you think is the correct one, but isn't. You understand? I do get frustrated by people that are very easily brainwashed, you know. It's just how I roll. You'll get used to it, you know. My fans, the people who like it will keep coming back. The people who don't like my approach. So yes. So the emperor, when he took over, he made spiritual knowledge, he made the existence of this, just spirituality in general, the concept of there being a spirit world at all, you know, metaphysical stuff, whatever, paranormal. He made it so that it is hidden knowledge, i.e., it became occulted. He occulted it, as in he hid it. Okay? So that's why in the dark timeline, when the bad guys have taken over, like when you're born into a society and you're like Neo, like Morpheus tells Neo in the first and best Matrix. Did I commit blasphemy there? Maybe the second movie is the best one. Yeah, I don't know. I guess the first two are my favorites. I can't decide between the two. I love both of them. But the first one's a classic. So in the first one, when Morpheus says, "You are a slave, Neo, born into bondage, in a prison you can't see or smell or touch," you know. So when you're already born into a situation, into a planet where it's already been taken over for several generations, and you don't even know how it happened, and you don't even know, like, you know, it's like in the 1984 novels as well, like, the people that are born into this, they don't even know the true history and everything, because the party has fucking erased everything, and they've only either written history from a perspective that suits them, that makes them look good, and also that hides empowering things that the people could have, you know, help the people rise up against them. So that's exactly what is shown in Star Wars. And so if you've been taken over already, you're born into a society where you've already been, like, where the bad guys have already taken over, and I would have to say that that date would be about 1913 when they set up the Federal Reserve Bank. You know, we can go down many rabbit holes with that one, but that's all I'll say for now for this video. So the takeover was complete in 1913, so 110 years ago roughly. So we're born into a world where the takeover is 100% completed. What do you expect? That the truth about spirituality and the existence of the metaphysical world and of the paranormal and everything, and that there is a higher realm, and that the most important knowledge is the spiritual knowledge and not the materialist physics. Do you expect the real life Sith lords who have taken over through taking over all the central banks of the world, do you think that they would not hide the truth about spiritual reality? Okay, of course they would, because if you and I knew about it, we would be able to overthrow them. Okay, but if you're born into these things, like you're born into this, there's this brainwashing going on, this brainwashing machine going on for the past 100 years. People that are born into it, that's all they know, and they're like, okay, this is the way of the world. What are you talking about, spirituality and whatever? Atheism is cool, man. Or religionism. That's almost as bad as being atheist, but at least the blue-pilled religionists at least comprehend that there's a prime creator. So that's way better than being an atheist. But they're really not too different from each other. They're both bad places to be. Right? There's a third way to break away from atheism and also from organized religion. Okay, true spirituality. I mean, I don't remember who said it, but there's a quote. A lot of people, a lot of the New Age types would know it. When I dabbled in the New Age spirituality in my early 20s, I had all these quotes back in the day. What does it say? When I broke away from religion, that's when I found true spirituality. Something like that. A lot of you would know the actual quote. It's not verbatim, but it's close. Okay, so true spirituality is certainly not being an atheist, but it's not organized religion either. Okay, that's just a man-made construct. All right, you want a direct relationship with the divine, even with Jesus. I mean, I don't deny that Jesus is who Christianity says he is, but you can have a personal relationship with him. And I'm not saying being a born-again Christian or whatever. Just do your own thing, pray to him, or whatever you want to do. Like you can have you just meditate, and you'll eventually find that you don't need churches or priests or anything. But that's what people should be doing. And this cabal who's taken over for the past 100 years, like completely, the takeover was complete when the Federal Reserve Act was signed. Ever since, it's been non-stop propaganda to prevent people from understanding that this thing that's now called a cult is actually the way that we liberate ourselves, by learning this stuff, okay? By understanding that the spiritual realm is real, and it's more real than the physical, okay? Than this physical, because the spiritual, I'll rephrase that. The physical comes from the spiritual, okay? The spiritual is the cause of everything, and this material world that you see around you is the effect. We are living in the plane of effects. The cause is elsewhere. We cannot see it with our physical eyes, with our five senses. We can kind of intuitively sense it. So when you meditate and so on, you start. These are methods for you to perceive the cause and realize that you are just an effect of the cause. See, that's what things like meditation do, and praying and whatever. I mean, even like miracles and stuff. When, like I said earlier, I mean, I don't reject Jesus. Like you can pray to someone like that, and you will see, my friend. You will see. Okay, but don't be cynical and skeptical about it. People say, "Oh, but faith is BS." Yes or no? Faith is like a trick, like a test from Prime Creator to say, okay. It's almost like instead of saying seeing is believing, you can almost say that a truer version of that quote should be believing is seeing. Okay, because A lot of the times you need to have faith. It's not stupidity or ignorance. It's, oh, you just believe in faith. What are you talking about? You know, you're coming across as knowledgeable and stuff in this video, and now you're starting. You're giving us this black pill, turd in a punch bowl. You're talking about faith, like a crypto Christian ortho bro. No, I've just realized that the faith element is not. It took me many years to realize that the faith element of this whole thing is not a sign of ignorance or of religious blue pillness or something. It could become that if people take it too far. It's like when when they go to those demonic evangelists and just believe anything that these people do. You know, those idiots that heal people on the stage and all that shit. Some of it might be real, but like for the most part, they're scammers. I mean, faith, when it goes to that point, then you're a moron if you believe people like that. You're just you're a fool. They're bilking you. But faith, you have a little bit of faith, as in, to eventually like stop being cynical and skeptical and just suspicious and, oh, is this real? Was there proof? Blah, 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 blah. I'm just like, because we're Christians, I'm addressing, the Anglosphere and speaking English. Most of my people that I'm going to watch are going to be Christians, so I'll use Jesus as an example of this, right? The faith thing can apply in any facet of spirituality, but we'll use the Christian thing as an example. Oh, but did he exist? Oh, but there's all these theories about saying that they made it up, and it's a fake religion. And then there's the Gnostics, and look what they say, and it's like, blah, blah, blah. It can never end. You can be going around in circles literally for 10 years, more. You can be going around in circles for decades. If the way that vicious cycle can stop is like, just for once, give it the benefit of the doubt, D-O-U-T-H, new word. And read one of the passages and say, okay, maybe it's real. Because a lot of people that watched this stuff, that saw this stuff, they witnessed it. There's multiple corroborations from people that were unconnected to each other. All kinds of stuff, official records, Roman records that confirm that certain events happened and certain people, governors, emperors and so on lived at the time. And those names are also mentioned in the Gospels and all this. And you put all these things together. Of course it takes time. If you can take it up full time and study these things, it's like, shit. This is practically one of the most well documented stories ever. Why are there all these people then trying to publish books and stuff and tell me, oh, it's fake and whatever? So if you really look into it, you'll be like, wait a minute. Why is everyone trying to tell me this is fake? So when you just have the benefit of the doubt for just 1 minute and read one of these important passages, I don't know what it would be, but one of the full-on things, all right? Like one of the miracles or something. It's like, okay, read this and just try to remove any of the skepticism and stuff just for 1 minute. I'm not saying just be a dumbass and believe anything you read, but just try it and you'll see what happens. Because I've done it. And it's like this magical, miraculous thing happens where just something changes in you and you start realizing, and especially if you're spiritually attuned already from other stuff, like I've been doing meditating since 25 years old and so on, whatever you may be doing. You might be naturally born, highly intuitive, whatever. Some switch will flip inside you, something will change. So that's an example from a Christian perspective. Of what faith can do. Like even for a minute, if you suspend disbelief, that's what I should have used before. That's the best phrase to use. Suspend disbelief for a second and say, okay, let's say that this is historical and everyone witnessed this and said, and what they were saying was true. Okay? It sounds crazy, but all these people saying it was real. Okay, let's just for a minute pretend, okay, I believe them. Because we believe that whatever they say about Socrates and so on, he never wrote a single word down. himself. It's well known, right? He never wrote a single word down about himself. I'm not sure, don't quote me on this. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, but Alexander did not write a single word about himself, and so many other ones, all right? Pythagoras, whatever. Yet all these people, no one ever says, oh, he didn't exist because he didn't write his own. But with Jesus, they find every fucking excuse under the sun. Like, the leaps of logic they make is incredible. They're incredible. So it's one of the level of documentation of that thing, like considering the times when we did not have, photography and, ability to record audio and all this stuff, video. Can you imagine if they had video footage? But anyway, but people still, I'm sure people still would have made an excuse. They probably would have said, oh, it's just probably they had advanced AI 100 years before it actually came out to the public and it's all fake. Like, people will always, even if you made a time machine and sent someone back and they saw it, they'll still, like these flat earth retards, like if Elon Musk, in his infinite mercy and wisdom, took them for free up in one of the spaceships and said, look, moron, can you see now that it's actually round, that it's not, that all this flat earth stuff is bullshit? They're so messed up in their head, they will still try to convince themselves somehow that what they saw is fake or something. So anyway, so that will be an interesting example, test for you, little homework I'm giving you, if it's your mission if you choose to accept it, to try that out if you never have. And if you're one of those Christian people that kind of has doubts or were interested in it before, but you kind of lost interest, because, the real life Sith Lords have been continually telling us the past 100 years or so through the mass brainwashing operation, which is comprised of the 3 pillars of fake news, fake education, and fake entertainment, aka Hollywood. They've been telling us through that constantly that the Bible is lame, it's a bunch of BS, it's made up, it's just some story for children, blah blah blah. And when you finally actually read it for yourself, some of these passages, you'll be like, and if you do it in that feeling of, like just for 1 minute, suspend disbelief and say, all right, let's say this is just like the Jewish equivalent of Socrates. Okay? He had all these followers and stuff, and they were writing down things, just like Plato was writing down Socrates' dialogues, right? We never doubt that, do we? So it's like, okay. And this guy had like 4 different people. Jesus. Socrates only had Plato writing his stuff. And no one disputes that Socrates existed, okay? So think about that and then see what happens. Sorry, not think about that. Perhaps experiment with that one and see what happens. Okay? You will find that for the first time ever, said passage, that particular passage that you might read, might be 1 page, whatever, half a page of the Bible. It will speak to you in ways it never had before. And it's not a case of, just because I had faith, it's probably like it was like this self-induced placebo thing. Well, that's another buzzword, placebo. That's a horrible Orwellian term that the Kabbalah has made, because you have a genuine experience and people, it's like, no, it's placebo. Everything's fucking placebo. In the end, they're going to say gravity is placebo. So try that. And like I said, this is not, I didn't trick you for an entire hour or however long this has been going on. Let me see, actually. Oops, 2 hours. Oh well. It's not like, I tricked you for an hour and 59 minutes and then suddenly I hit you with, I'm going to start telling you about the Bible. It's just, like I said, because I'm addressing mostly Christian, because it's an English speaking thing that I'm doing here, and 99% of the people watching would be in the US and so on. Okay, so odds are most of the people will either be Christians or, grown up in a Christian family at least. Okay, so I'm addressing majority Christian crowd. So this is why I'm using this example, and also because this type of thing has happened to me. So it's always best to talk about examples about things, like a podcaster or an author or whoever, or a public speaker. It's always best for them to talk about things that they have personal experience with. So I've done a similar thing quite recently, actually. So I'm like, okay, I never expected this. Like the way you get this feeling. The first thought came to mind was like, why didn't anyone tell me that this is how this is? Why is the entire... It's almost like the entire structure of the, whatever we want to call it, the mass brainwashing operation, as I called it before. The entire matrix structure, we use Andrew Tate's term, the entire matrix of control. It's almost as if it's designed ultimately around one thing, geared around accomplishing one thing. To lie to us about what true spirituality is, and also to dissuade us from having a proper understanding of the Bible, of the gospel. It's like if you read it in the context, like in the way that I just described, like try to have like at least like just 1 minute of give it the benefit of the doubt, for Christ's sake. I believe in Socrates. Why wouldn't I believe that this guy was, So take it from that, sort of go into it with that mindset for just 1 minute and see what happens. 1 minute. You will see, like it'll be almost like a miraculous thing. You'll be like, whoa, something's happening here. And then it'll just cascade and go down a rabbit hole. And this could be anything, sorry, let me rephrase that. You could be at any level. Like I've told you, I've started doing NoFap almost 20 years ago. For a year I did it. I was meditating from 25 years. I'm 48 now, 48 and a half. 49, I'm turning 49 soon, October. Wow, it flies. So yeah, meditating since 25 years old. I'm a Reiki healer. So many things. Like I'm into occultism. I do the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, the LBRP, and all that. I've studied the Kabbalah, like so many things. But at the same time, like I told you earlier, I don't reject the reality of Jesus. It can be compatible with all these other things. All right. So no matter your spiritual journey, whatever things you've experimented with and done in your journey up to this point, if you're from a Christian background originally, and you're like a fence sitter or completely rejected it for whatever reason, just if this resonates with you, try. I'm not saying do it because I say it, but if this resonates with you, what I've said, try that approach. It's like I believe that Socrates existed, without any resistance. Let me try the same thing with this guy just for 1 minute, and read some of the stuff. And when you're reading it, like put yourself in the mindset, like in the zone, as if you're reading an actual retelling of real events, and don't have this cognitive dissonance with it. Is this real? That non-stop chatter, is that real? Because I read from one of those guys, that wrote The Holy Blood, A Holy Grail, all that genre of books. I've read all that stuff. Don't worry about it, my ladies and gentlemen. Do not. In my 20s I read that shit. So I'm not someone who's like, oh, he's a blue pill Christian who's pretending to be an occultist. No. There was a phase in my early 20s that I was listening to Glenn Benton's band, Deicide, that black metal band from America. I had the album Once Upon the Cross on a CD. Remember the CD, that ancient Earth technology from the 20th century? And I would play it like so loud, you could hear it like 5 kilometers away, 5 miles away. Miles. I'm addressing Americans mostly, aren't I? So miles. The song Once Upon the Cross, and I would sing to it and everything. Like I was convinced Jesus was not real and all this stuff. You know, so I've gone through all the phase, you know, and I've come full circle because later on I had some healing experience and some amazing miracle healing when I went to an Orthodox church. I was depressed for 3 months straight, couldn't heal it. I was doing Reiki, I was doing this, I was doing praying, I was doing everything. My girlfriend at the time was like, so what about, why don't you just go to an Orthodox church? I'm like, holy crap, I never thought of that. I go, I prayed, I went in my heart chakra. Within like 30 seconds, the weight of my heart chakra lifted. Less than a minute. A depression I couldn't lift for 3 months because I was living like with this horrible roommate who was basically a petty criminal, and it was very problematic. It was like a thug, and I couldn't get out of it. I was forced to live in that situation for a while because I had no money and so on, and it was horrible. And it was getting me depressed, right? Depression lifted in 30 seconds, I swear to God, and I heard a voice in my... Anyway, I don't want to go too full on with what actually happened in the experience, but there was a communication as well. The voice told me something and gave me some advice about what I've been doing wrong. At that point I was mid-30s, so I had already done all the meditating and the Reiki and then this and that. And I'm like, fuck, I've never had anything that's as full on as this. And I was like scratching my head, I'm like, oh, gee whiz, this stuff was real all along, wasn't it? So then when that happens, you're like, wait, what else have they lied to us about? Okay. I mean, clearly, I've got a massive beef against Christianity because they're lying to us about reincarnation. I even mentioned that in the books and books, because I've got a non-fiction book as well about spirituality and the occult. See, I'm an occult spirituality author, but still, like, the Jesus thing is real. You know what I'm saying? It's just organized religion sucks because they lie to us about reincarnation. Why the fuck? Abrahamism lies to all 3 of the Abrahamic religions. Are very notorious for lying to people about reincarnation. That's why I don't like Abrahamic religions. But Christianity, I mean, you can understand about reincarnation and past lives and the Buddhist type of, you know, the New Age Buddhist Hindu type of angle of things. You can meditate and do all these things. But, it's not going to hurt you. But at the same time, that was very badly worded. At the same time, don't miss out on the benefits you can get from having a connection with Christ. I mean, because it's a real thing as well. So that's all I'm saying. So it is fascinating. So I had to give it the example from the Christian prism, from a Christian perspective, I guess, due to the, most of the audience being of this demographic and so on. So it felt right to me to talk about it from the specific angle. So that would be a great example for you people who are kind of like, maybe you haven't broken away from organized religion in that sense. Like you've never explored like the Eastern spirituality or the New Ageism kind of stuff, meditation, all that stuff, Reiki. Maybe you just lost interest in Christianity, or maybe you've never really known how to do it properly. You were just like a nominal Christian on paper, but you didn't really get anything special out of it. So if the people who are at that point in their journey, it will help them a lot as well, like to make sense out of what, to have like to have like your own experiential understanding, okay, personal understanding, like through your own lived experience, right, of what Tucker Carlson was saying. It's like because they're trying to hide the fact, the cabal, this cabal that we speak of, whoever they are, whatever they are. But certainly they completely took over after 1913 when the Federal Reserve Act was passed. You know, they have been trying to convince us now since that time that the Bible is not really serious, or maybe it's not even historically accurate, or anything like that, or maybe Jesus existed, or maybe he didn't, or even if he did, maybe he didn't do all that stuff, or if he did, he was just a dude, he was just a rabbi, didn't really die on the cross, he married Mary Magdalene. Maybe, look, I don't deny, I really do think that Mary Magdalene was his girl, but I mean, because it was in the patriarchal days at the time, they didn't want to tell us that, so they kind of kept that on the hush-hush. But the theory is that, he didn't really die on the cross, and then they moved to France, and all that kind of thing that found its way in the Da Vinci Code eventually. No. But, maybe they were an item. I don't deny that. I mean, it would have been his spiritual counterpart, his twin flame, let's say, like his divine queen, they could have had kids or whatever. Like, no, who says, Jesus will solve it? I don't believe that. But I do believe it was legit. He died on the cross and all the stuff, that miracles that they tell us about. Because when you do look at the Bible, if you've never read it in a way that I prescribed in these past 10 minutes or whatever, you would have not gotten any like full-on visions or miracles or mystical direct experiences with Christ. But if you do read it like with that faith, because this is where this whole thing started 10 minutes ago or whatever, when I tried to differentiate, to explain why there's always a faith element in spirituality, whether it's organized religion or not. It doesn't have to be. It could be just whatever, just you, no religion, just you trying to connect with spirit through meditating, through whatever. There has to be, like, when you first start reaching out for it, trying to see if there's anything other than the material world, don't you have to have like faith? Don't you have to believe that it exists? You're like, there must be something out there. When you say that there must be, what is that? That means you believe, you have faith that there is more. So it's not just an organized religion thing. In general, because our five senses can't perceive the higher realm, the faith element is a necessary precursor to start us down the rabbit hole. Okay, to begin the red pilling process, faith must come first, because we're dealing with something that our five senses cannot see. So if you don't want to, like the atheist morons, like, there can't be, when they keep saying there can't be and it's impossible, that's like they have zero faith that there's something more outside the physical, the world of the five senses. So that's what the faith element is. It's not a religious thing per se. It's just, in general, with anything to do with the spiritual realms, there has to be an element of faith. And that's where that saying comes into it that I said before, which is like a flipping around the typical one we say. And we should be saying, I see it because I believe it. Not I believe it because I see it. Because fuck the physical eyes. They can barely see. I mean, if you look at the actual science of it, of what the physical eyes actually perceive of the totality of existence, it's absolutely laughable. It's almost like there's almost no difference between a literal blind person and someone who can see. It's like, oh great, now I can see. I'm not blind anymore from my physical eyes, which means now I can see 0.001% of reality more than what I did when I was blind. It's like, it's negligible. It's a hard word always for me. It's negligible difference. So It's nothing. I mean, the people that only believe their five senses, I have no respect. To me, they're the lowest forms of life. I don't care who I offend. This channel's not for you if you hear this and you get offended. The people that only believe in the five senses are the biggest losers. The people, like, they're just glorified animals. They're nothing. How can you, looking at the vast cosmos and how perfectly nature operates, still believe that only what you see with the five senses, and see, feel, smell, touch, hear, with the five senses is real? That is the dumbest fucking thing. Okay, and these people, these atheists, think that religious people are dumb. I used to think that too, until very recently. I still do, to an extent, that the blue-pilled religious types are dumb because they have too much faith. You know, all those idiots that go and see the televangelists and believe in their healing powers. That's dumb. That's legitimately dumb. That's legitimate dumbasses. These are the stupid type of religious people. But there's a lot of intelligent, educated people that have done all kinds of spiritual practices, that have broken away from Christianity when they were younger, and they've tried everything under the sun, and then they return back to Christianity, and it's like, shit, this stuff is real all along. It's pretty powerful stuff. So no one said that it doesn't have to be exclusive. You can't. It's not an all or nothing. Okay, I am quite a syncretic type. Syncretistic. Is it syncretistic or syncretic? Someone who likes to syncretize. Is that a word? To combine different faiths and whatever. I don't know. I'm probably the type of person that's like, my astrological chart also is very conducive to this. It's very compatible with the idea of me probably creating my own type of thing one day, like combining, getting the best bits of all the different spiritualities, faiths, and creating my own thing. But I think it's cool, and I think it's an Aquarian age trait for us to sort of like pick and choose. So you don't have to like, oh, I'm a Christian and that's it. I'm a Christian. Sorry, no, I can't. Sorry, I can't meditate now. I can't do Reiki because Jesus never said don't do Reiki, don't meditate. If he was living now, he would be doing all that shit. You know. So whatever. I mean, I'm just saying, don't completely write it off. Don't discredit it. All right. Even though you do all the other stuff, try that as well. And probably this message would be better, probably more suited to the people that, like I said earlier, have not tried have not broken away from Christianity completely, and have not tried the other Eastern techniques or anything. So perhaps it's better suited to the people who either have kind of forgotten the Christian faith or have never really practiced it properly, as in, reading the Bible with total faith and understanding that it's actually just, it's not lying. It's like it's talking about real stuff. People were there and saw these things. Like, if you see it from that perspective, it can do stuff to you that you're going to say, why didn't anyone tell me that this is how this thing works? Okay, because Christianity is the biggest religion on earth still. Islam is a close second. It's growing more and more, but Christianity is the default biggest and greatest one. It's the Led Zeppelin of religions. You don't become the biggest if you're not the best, right? So it was the best one in the past several thousand years. So it caught on. So, in the marketplace of ideas, it won out. And also in the West at the moment, it's the majority religion. So, most of the people that will be listening might resonate with what I'm saying on some level, So because it's the majority thing, as far as spirituality goes, mainstream spirituality, organized religion, which is not all bad, I'm pissed off at them that they hide the truth about reincarnation, but aside from that, I mean, like I said, you're a free agent. You're allowed to read about reincarnation. You're allowed to explore that. You can go and have a hypnosis session or whatever, hypnotic regression, and discover for yourself that you've had past lives for real. Like the psychologist, the guy doing the regression would not be giving you any suggestions. He'll be just guiding the thing and saying, yep, what do you see? Okay, cool, whatever. So it's you they'll be just coming up with stuff, and you'll find out. Oh, you'll find out. You will find out. So, I mean, there's no denying it. Like, you can't. It's like, you know, nothing stays hidden under the sun for a lot. Like it's always like the truth comes out. So there's ways to find out that reincarnation is real. Okay. So Abrahamic religions, definitely they're lying about us. Lying to us about that. Definitely they're lying to us about reincarnation. Whereas the Eastern religions don't. Okay. That's why they're better in certain ways. But Abrahamism is better in others. Okay. It's more, I don't know. It's more stable. They're stronger. I mean, you know, Judaism and Islam, I'm kind of attracted to Islam as well. I'm a little bit Islam adjacent, don't freak out now. But I'm just being honest here, because it's got a strength to it that I admire. But anyway, Judaism is interesting too, because it's the law. Like it laid down the law of Moses. I mean, I don't like the eye for an eye, but it's got a strength to it. It's very interesting. The Old Testament is pretty cool as well. But yeah, the New Testament is the balance between the two. Okay, it's like the golden mean between Old Testament, New Testament. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Christianity is in the middle. It's like the golden mean. It's the balance between the two. It's the best one. So, because it's the most prominent religion still at the moment in the West, it's been attacked. That's why it's been so massively attacked by this thing that we call the Cabal. I mean, certainly what Tucker Carlson was getting at in the video, and then I elaborated on as well, and that passage that I read in my book as well. I'm not saying anything about Christianity there in that passage. I'm just saying that the Cabal, the Illuminati, they are trying to ridicule the existence of the higher realms, period. Okay, spirituality in general. And they occult the truth about the spiritual knowledge. They occult it, as in they hide it. That's why it's called occult, because it is hidden. It's all the word fucking means. I don't care what your programming says. I don't care if your reptilian mind goes like that, makes you go like that whenever you hear that word. It does mean hidden and nothing more. It does mean hidden. Look it up. Deprogram yourself of false etymologies and definitions. You will do yourself a favor. So, the Cabal control us through words. You understand? They use word magic, primarily. Okay, they control us from the mental sphere. It's like we're too sophisticated at this point as a planet for them to control us through violence. Besides, there's too many of us, so they can't do that anyway. It would collapse. So they control you through with mental tricks, through words, just like I've been describing. Fuck it, I'll say it one more time. Occult means hidden. It never did mean anything else. Never, ever, ever. You were just wrong. You had the wrong definition. You were fooled. Okay? It was either misinformation, which is like accidentally you had the wrong idea about it, or disinformation. Somebody deliberately lied to you about the definition. It does not mean satanic, black magic, blah, blah, blah. It means hidden. Look it the fuck up. So it's hidden knowledge about how the world really works. Why? Because those who control the world behind the scenes don't fucking want you to know how the world really works. What would happen if you did? That's right. you'd kick their asses like Luke Skywalker does in the 6th and final Star Wars movie, in this healthy parallel Earth that we live in, where there are only 6 official Star Wars movies, and Lucas owns Lucasfilm. I'm playing around with that one. The Star Wars fans know exactly what I'm doing there. Those who don't know, haven't watched Star Wars, are like, why does he keep saying that about the 6? Anyway, so yeah, I'm just saying the truth. Even about the amount of official Star Wars films, I like saying the truth. So yeah, look it up. Occult just means hidden. So every time from now on, whenever you listen to the word occult knowledge, your previously programmed mind needs to deprogram itself, and when it hears occult, it needs to say in the mind that hidden. Hidden. It's gonna, like those light bulb moments, bing, that they show us in the old cartoons. Yeah. And a little definition should come up and say hidden knowledge. So it's hidden knowledge. You've got to ask yourself, why would they do this? Like I said, they don't fucking want you to know it. Why? Why would they? All right. It's like, I'm a writer, so I know about this stuff. I think about it a lot and research it. It's well known that on Amazon, where self-published authors upload their books and sell them, there's an algorithm that upon which or rephrase that, there's an algorithm that determines, like, if your book does well, then it's going to start being shown to more and more people. And then if it does even better, it's going to start being shown to more and more. It kind of goes exponentially. So Amazon starts automatically helping your book and promoting it to more and more people as it succeeds. But nobody knows how that algorithm works. There's millions of self-published authors that are trying to figure it out, but no one knows. It's like that. Why would Amazon tell you how its algorithm works? It's exactly like that. Like, why would these people that rule the world behind the scenes, using magic, like Darth Sidious is shown in the 6 Star Wars films that have only been made on this planet, why would fucking tell people that this thing called the Force even exists? He doesn't want anyone to learn, so can they use it against him and dethrone him. Okay, that's exactly what's happening in the real world. And it's a big part of it is lying to us about, covering up the truth about the UFOs. Okay, because then with the UFOs, if we understand what's going on with that there's a massive galactic community out there, and there's probably millions of planets that are inhabited and this and that, by life forms far more evolved than us. Can you imagine? People would just be jumping out of windows, but we're going crazy. Half of the planet will self-delete within a week. They'll go seriously, go crazy. Like a lot of the blue pill, the really blue pill religious folk will lose it. They'll just be jumping off cliffs. All right. So they're trying to slowly get us used to the idea, and eventually come out with the truth and say, oh, hey, by the way, all that stuff you were saying, all that stuff you saw in Star Wars and Star Trek, Star Trek, from the people that have unfortunately watched that, it would be, they'll be going to say, well, that was real all along, all the stuff about the Federation. Of course, it makes sense. The amount, if you look at the amount of potential inhabited planets that could exist just in this galaxy, your mind will explode. And then you'll find out that there's billions of galaxies, times the amount of potential planets in the Milky Way, times billions. The number is not only The question should be, how could there not be other intelligent life? I mean, only a moron would say, do you think there's intelligent life? Oh, yeah, maybe not, probably not, because we haven't seen any yet. There cannot possibly be a dumber question than that. The question is, the proper question for the good people of the world is, that the good people of the world would ask, is, how could there not be life on other planets? Okay, that's the actual question we should ask if we've got half a brain, right? Considering what we know thus far about the galaxy, about certain planets that have already been found. I mean, for several years now, there have been a handful of discoveries of Earth-like planets, right? I don't remember their names or whatever, but they named them some interesting names. There was one in particular that was almost identical, like it was just like Earth but a little bit bigger or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but there are a few of them that they've found like that. Can you imagine how many of them there are? And that would be only ones that would sustain life forms like us. There could be others that we think would be uninhabitable, but they would sustain other type of life forms. So it's not, because everyone looks for only the things that he is. So because we are in this particular Goldilocks zone that works for us, in which we can survive, we think that all life can survive only in those environments. How do you know? Maybe there's other kind of beings that can live on super cold ones, or planets that are much hotter, or have much less oxygen, or much higher gravity. Like, so many things could be going on. Anyway, so I don't want to keep going about this one. We'll end it here. I do have a tendency to go on. It got a bit long. I mean, most people wouldn't make like a 2-hour reaction video. Whatever. It is what it is, and there was a gap. Apologies for the gap. For about 3 months or so, I disappeared and didn't upload because, first of all, I was so busy. I lost sleep. I was having energy drinks and stuff, staying up all night, 8 days a week, trying to finish the book because I had put it on pre-order 3 months in advance, I think. Came out in May, 10th of May, so it was like I had to rush to get everything ready by then. So it was a terrible self-imposed deadline that I put on myself. So I almost ruined my health trying to finish all that in superhuman time, in record time. Plus, at the same time, incredibly, as if matters weren't already, as if the schedule already was not tight enough. In the meantime, I also figured out that I found that I had a hernia. It wasn't too bad, but it's better that, the doctor said, he said, you've got to operate at some point. So, and I thought, oh, well, might as well do it sooner than later. So I had to have an operation. Took about at least 2 weeks to recover, like basic recovery, to even be able to like walk around properly and eat. I was barely eating for 2 weeks. I didn't want to after the hernia because it's like a stomach-based operation, so don't really want to eat in the beginning, and then you start eating a little bit more and walking around a bit more. I've only just started exercising again, which I hate that. Like ever since I was like a young teenager, there's never been a time in my life where I haven't consistently exercised. So I stopped exercising for almost 6 months now. Because I had COVID back in December, so it was like one thing after the other. So it was a miracle that I actually got the first few videos made for this channel to begin with. Because when I was doing that back in December, January, I was in the middle of COVID that I had. Yeah. So it's been about 5 months or whatever that I've been basically not being able to really work on YouTube because we only have 24 hours, unfortunately. But now the book project is done. I mean, there's more sequels to come, but I've written what's called, I've got extensive outlines of every single sequel. I mean, the next book is almost finished anyway, so it's going to be a more even pace now, so I'll have time to write and to simultaneously work on YouTube. I've got a nice new laptop now, which is much faster in rendering videos and everything, so you're going to be seeing me a lot. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video and got something out of it, please like, comment, share and subscribe, and I'll see you all soon.